I remember this TV movie I saw when I was a kid. It was called Mazes and Monsters, and it starred a then unknown Tom Hanks as a lonely kid who gets swept up in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. He begins thinking his friends who are also playing the game are monsters and tries to kill them. It was meant to be some kind of cautionary tale of the then rising trend of D&D role-playing games and how dangerous they were to the youth of the 80s. I never really got into D&D as a kid, not because Mazes and Monsters worked on scaring me away from the game. I was just too busy reading comics and collecting toys and watching movies to be bothered by it. The Bunker game deals with LARPing, or live-action role-playing games, too, which is what put Mazes and Monsters and Tom Hanks' awful acting in that movie in my head in the first place. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. The Bunker game is new, streaming exclusively on Shudder. It's directed by Roberto Zazzara and written by Francesca Forristal and Davide Orsini. A group of LARPers have sealed themselves in a bunker to play a role-playing game where they live for an extended period of time as if the Nazis had won World War II and eventually caused the Third and final World War, resulting in the detonation of nuclear bombs, which requires the community to survive underground in this bunker. As the game begins to come to an end, the LARPers are eager to leave the bunker they've been locked in and return to their normal lives. But when they attempt to leave, the doors won't open, and a select few are trapped underground. The question is why? Is it a case of someone taking the game too seriously, or is there something supernatural at play making the game real and deadly? I wish I could say that I enjoyed the Bunker game more than I did. I really do love single-location films and imagine that I'm in an audience in some small theater watching this story played out on stage before me when I see a film like that. The Bunker Games has the makings of all of that, with its small cast, a locked room mystery of sorts, and a whole lot of dialogue about what's going on. But simply put, the Bunker Game turned out to be quite a mess of a movie, with no clear direction as to what kind of horror it really wants to be. Role-playing games is a ripe landscape for psychological horror. The concept of someone losing themselves in their role and not being able to return is one that chills me to the bone. While there are moments where fantasy and reality blend together in some of the characters' minds, that proves to be but one avenue the Bunker game journeys down. The thing is, among all of the factors at play, and I'll list them in a second, the most interesting is the one that is only played with briefly, as the characters who seem to be into the whole Nazi thing a little too much are either introduced and then disappear for a large portion of the film, or given very little screen time. The Bunker game really seems to want to be a supernatural thriller, with the bunker itself being haunted by spirits of the past. Yes, there are strange happenings, and eventually we learn the story of who or what is going on in the bunker, but with the way it plays out, there's no real clear indication as to why the spirits are inhabiting this particular bunker, because it seems the incident that keeps being flashed back to occurred in a nightclub on the streets of Germany. I guess because the game is evoking Nazi themes and using historically accurate costumes, the ghosts might be attracted to the bunker and to this particular group. Everything occurs inside the bunker in this story, meaning for most of the film, everyone is playing the game. There are small moments where modern technology and conversation come through, but for the most part, everyone remains in character. It made me wonder, what's it like on a Tuesday in the bunker, when nothing's going on? Everyone's kind of sick of the game and just missing their cell phones. We don't get that here. Everyone takes this game way too seriously. There's practically no frivolity, no jokes being made. I understand living under a fascist state is not going to be a bag of laughs, but these are young people. They're supposed to be playing a game because it's fun, and no one's having it at all in this movie. There's a dance on the last night before the shit goes down, but even before that, the game itself really seems to have no appeal other than setting up a reason to gather all of these characters together to make a horror movie. If the game didn't go sideways, as it did in the film, will the group reconvene next week dressed as hobbits in a farmer's field? There's no indication as to why this game would attract anyone to play it, and being someone who has never been into LARPing, I needed that to help me understand and get into the movie. It just wasn't there. The group left behind in the bunker are an eclectic bunch. I'm all for inclusivity in horror films, as horror fans are as varied as they come. I've read a few annoyed reviews of the inclusion of a non-binary character and calling the bunker game some kind of woke film because of it. I don't see any problem with the movie having a non-binary character attempting to play a male role in the game, though they very much present as a woman. My issue with this is that the role is sandwiched into the plot with no nuance or thought past the fact that it seems like they wanted a non-binary character in the story for something to brag about on the press junket. This detail is pointed out twice in the film. Once from a guy who takes his fascism a bit too seriously and shames the non-binary character for wanting to play a male officer in the game. And then later, after the non-binary character is killed, in a throwaway line about them being non-binary and wanting to be referred to as they. Maybe this is attempting to make some comment and correlation about how LGBTQ people were and still are treated by ignorant parties. That's all fine and dandy, but by lending all of 3 minutes to the issue, it really makes one wonder why it was put in there at all. No, the bunker game really doesn't know what it wants to be, so it attempts to have it all, petitioning for a psychological horror where characters are taking the game too seriously, a supernatural tale of redemption, a claustrophobic story of growing paranoia in a closed space, a commentary on unwanted pregnancy, and a slew of other themes that are brought up but barely addressed. The bunker game looks good, though. Director Robert Zazzara and his cinematographer, Marco Graziaplena, make every nook and cranny of this dank, dark bunker look dynamic and vivid. I loved soaking in the expansive shots of the long corridors and wonderfully lit rooms. This is a good-looking film. The film is a scatterbrained one, but it looks good being scatterbrained. The performances are decent as well, especially Gaia Weiss, who plays the lead protagonist, who is pregnant and fed up with the LARPing. Hers is the most well-thought-out role of the bunch, as she reveals that she seems to like being dominated in many aspects of her life, so one would understand why she might find being under the boots of Nazis appealing. I also have to give it to Mark Ryder for offering up a particular bent performance as a newbie role player with reasons of his own for playing the game. But these are just only 2 characters given time to expand in this cramped and heavily populated bunker. I didn't hate my time in the bunker game. I just wish more thought would have gone into the script to make it more focused. It wants too much. There's an immaturity to the script that feels like it wants to be a kid in a costume shop, wanting to put on all of these costumes and play all of these roles. But it doesn't have the attention span to really try one single costume on fully. Sadly, Mazes of Monsters, which I mentioned in the intro, is a much more focused look at the horrors of LARPing and role-playing games. Try to look that oldie up for a much more straightforward story than what the bunker game has to offer.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be. Stuck inside your reality, you're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. God live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside